What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay guys, so we are going to continue our coverage over the New 52 Superman, and we pick up with Action Comics Volume 8. When it comes to Volume 8, this takes place in the era where Superman was powerless. Let me explain. See, he had a new power given to him, which was the solar flare. And when it came to the solar flare, he was able to release a huge amount of energy. The problem was, after doing that, he'll be technically powerless until his cells were able to recharge with solar energy. Once they do, he was back to our old Superman. Except the last time he used a solar flare, well, it left him mostly powerless. Not completely, but mostly. But on top of that, Lois Lane told the entire world that he was Superman. And so right now you have almost everybody coming after Clark Kent. And he has to go away from Metropolis for the time being. But at the same time, he is trying to go to the Fortress of Solitude, a safe area for him and only him because he is Kryptonian. And when it comes to him traveling over to the Fortress of Solitude, this is not going to be an easy task for him at all, for two different reasons. Now, the first reason is because he lost his powers. See, usually with his powers, it was so easy to travel over to the Fortress of Solitude. But now he lost most of those powers, like flying and also super speed. And so now he has to travel a different kind of way. But on top of that, he has to get used to the idea of him almost being basically human. Because now the way there is not an easy path for him anymore. Now, while he is traveling, he is attacked by a bunch of different kinds of shadow creatures. And these shadow creatures are going to be very important for today's video. Either way, while he is traveling, he's trying his best to get through them. But of course, they are giving him a hard time. Now, because he does have a little bit of super strength, he was able to fight his way through the shadow figures. And once he does that, he's then able to continue on to his travels for the Fortress of Solitude. Unfortunately, when he does reach the Fortress of Solitude, well, the fortress does not let him inside at all. Matter of fact, it says, "We have scanned you, and we realize you are not Kal-El. You are not Kryptonian. We have no idea who you are. But we do see that you are holding on to the Kryptonian suit that was given to Kal-El." Of course, they're talking about his Superman suit. They even said also the cape as well. And so you have the fortress begin to take every single thing away from Clark Kent. Because right now the fortress believes that he is not Kal-El. And so we're left to believe that thanks to his last solar flare, it basically got rid of his Kryptonian DNA. Not completely, but mostly, because now he's powerless. But also, he's not allowed inside the Fortress of Solitude. And so as we jump into the next chapter, well, we pick up with Clark Kent now traveling across the globe. Not the globe, really more just of North America. But either way, because he's no longer allowed inside the Fortress of Solitude, he has to go somewhere else. But the question is though, where? And so as he travels around the world, he does run into different kind of things happening to him. He does meet some great people. He also meets some bad people, but either way, he still has to just move on. Now, while he is traveling across North America, well, that is when he has Jimmy Olsen call him to say, "You need to come back home. Something is happening right now in Metropolis. We need you here." Now, he's kind of worried about going back there. And the reason why, because again, Lois Lane told the entire world that Clark Kent is Superman. He is wanted by the police, by bad guys, and the list goes on and on. But unfortunately for Clark Kent, he's all like, listen, Metropolis is my other home. I have been there so long protecting it. If anything bad is happening there, I need to go back and help out. And I still have my powers to use to help protect that city. And matter of fact, when he does arrive into Metropolis, Well, he's confronted by the police department of Metropolis, and they're like, oh, it's Clark Kent, it's Superman. Bring him down fast because you are wanted here in Metropolis for so many different things. And unfortunately, we gotta lock you up. Now, I say unfortunately, but you do have some cops, especially one who's really big on the idea of just arresting Superman like he never did anything good for this city. Except that is when you have the sergeant get a call from somebody else and say, hey, I know that's Clark Kent, I know he is Superman, but go ahead and let him inside the city. And so you actually do have the police department step down to let Clark inside the city. Now with that happening, you can tell the police is now working for somebody else, possibly somebody evil. Either way, once Clark is able to get into Metropolis, he is confronted by Jimmy Olsen. And now you have Clark say, hey, what in the world is going on here, Jimmy? What's so important for me to come back to Metropolis? And this is really a great moment because you have Jimmy take Superman to his old neighborhood in Metropolis to show that not everybody in Metropolis hates Superman, that you do have some people who actually do look up to him and stand with him, saying that even though he did bring a lot of drama to Metropolis, Lex Luthor, Brainiac, and the list goes on, he also did other things to help protect Metropolis. And so when it comes to the people in his old neighborhood, they have a huge parade going on right now just for Clark Kent to say, we stand with Superman no matter what. And for Clark, this is a great thing because honestly, he's going across the world saying that I have no one on my side except Jimmy. Everybody in the world hates me for different reasons. But then you realize that that's not true. You have some people out there who stand with you because of what you did, what you have done for this city. And so he's now just having a good time celebrating with the people of his old neighborhood. And that is when he is confronted by a new character known as Lee Lambert. And when it comes to Lee Lambert, she is the chief of the fire department. With that being said, she's right now coming over to Clark and saying, listen, what you did for this area is great because I was a young girl living here. While growing up, I realized this was the rough area of Metropolis, but thanks to you, you made this area a whole lot better. Unfortunately, it got in bad again once your secret got out to the entire world, because now you have people scared to just go outside because they are afraid they could be hurt by some random bad guy looking for you, or possibly just trying to get to you in some kind of way. But at the same time, crime has also gone up. And for Clark, he's saying, unfortunately, I am sorry about that, but I can't do anything about that because it wasn't me who shared my secret. It was Lois Lane. But for Lee, it's kind of like, oh well, because of your secret, this area has begun the process of going back down again. And people are terrified. But then that is the moment Lee does get a call on her radio about something happening at the docks. And so you have Clark take her radio and begin the process of still trying to be Superman. Even though he's powerless, he still says, there are people who need my help, a city that needs my help. And so I will do my best to protect this city. And so when Clark arrives at the docks, he realized the entire docks have been set on fire. The entire area set to blaze. And so he's trying his best to figure out what in the world happened here. He also sees some members of the fire department trying their best to put out the fire. Unfortunately, they're having a hard time doing that. And the reason why? Because there is another shadow figure, except this one is a whole lot bigger and a whole lot more crazier. And so for Clark to realize something or someone must be following him back to Metropolis, because the last time he saw these shadow creatures was back on his way over to the Fortress of Solitude. But now he's back in Metropolis and here they are again. Either way, you have Clark say, I have to do what I have to do. which is still be a hero and protect these innocent people. And so he tries his best to begin the process of fighting against this monster. Except while he's doing that, we jump back over to the police department. The ones who technically at first did not let Clark come into Metropolis, but now they have been given new orders, which is go ahead and shut down that whole parade that is going on in the old neighborhood of Clark Kent, because they did not get approved to do that in their area at all. But at the same time, because they're supporting Clark Kent, it most definitely has to be shut down. And so when it comes to the battle between Superman and this new shadow creature, he realized this is not going to be an easy task. Now, honestly, he already knew that it was not going to be an easy task, but at the same time, it's still Clark Kent. He still believes that he has to do the right thing, but now he's realizing that doing the right thing is not going to be that easy. Honestly, he is struggling a lot, but he doesn't give up. He keeps pushing forward. He tries his best to say, you know what? I have to protect the people of Metropolis. And so while he tries to find different ways to stop the creature is giving him one heck of a hard time. But Clark is not giving up. And you have Clark being able to actually find a way to stop the creature. And once he does that, okay, it's now time for him to head back to his old neighborhood. And speaking of his old neighborhood, you have the police just moving in and saying, shut everything down now. Everybody go home before we have to arrest you. Now, you do have the people of the old neighborhood of Superman say, we are not going to do that. Like, this was a peaceful parade. Now it's turned into a protest. You guys are just upset about the idea that we were supporting Superman, somebody that you guys hate. We don't hate him. Matter of fact, we stand with him. And so now we realize if anybody stands with him, you are going to try to bring us down. And matter of fact, they're right. And so the parade has turned into a protest. You have people sit down as a way to say, we stand with Superman. Now, there's a hothead known as Dante, where at first he's more of, let's go ahead and attack the police. But then you have Lee say, that is a bad idea. We are not going to attack the police at all. We're going to sit right here to show them we are not crazy people. We're not bad people. But at the same time, we stand with Superman. Now, you have police say, fine, if that's the case, we'll go ahead and arrest you. But then you have Clark reappear by bringing a huge chain and throwing it across the area saying, you may not cross that chain at all. They stand with me, so I stand with them. And this is a great moment because it's Clark saying, you have no right to come here to shut down parade or a neighborhood party because you guys hate them because they love me. That right there is not okay at all. Either way, you do have the officers tell Clark, you got two options. Go ahead and stand down and come with us, or get beat down and still come with us. Either way, you're coming with us. It's just that one way is nicer than the other. But we have Clark say no, because again, you guys are being the bullies. Unfortunately, it does lead into the officers calling in a SWAT team. And when they come in, well, it leads into the police department beating down on Superman. And that upsets the people of his old neighborhood so much, especially Dante the hothead. But the point is that with that happening, you then have the people of the old neighborhood get very upset. And the police begins to attack them as well. And then they have to fight back as well. It leads into a huge brawl in the middle of this old neighborhood. And with that happening, Clark realized he has no choice but to once again fight. He was trying to do this in a peaceful way, but unfortunately, the peaceful way is not going to work. And so you have Clark just punch the officer in charge to say, you are not going to hurt these people. But this leads into another problem. See, After Superman had punched a cop in the face, the one in charge of the crowd police officers who were trying to shut down the old neighborhood's parade, well, we come to find out the police officer is a shadow creature. And so it leads to more questions of what in the world is going on here. And so for Superman, his main goal now is to protect the people, both the officers and the people of the old neighborhood, from this officer who's really more of a bad guy, a shadow creature. And this does go on for a few good pages, but as the fight goes on, when it comes to Lee, she does get stabbed in the arm by this police officer who's more of a shadow creature. Now, we still have no idea what is the proper name for these shadow creatures. All we know is that they're connected to one another somehow. We have no idea how yet. Either way, it does come to Clark Kent being able to punch the officer, but the police officer is killed by his own officers when they unload their guns into him, shooting him non-stop until he actually dies. But then after he dies, he disappears. The only thing left is his clothes. Now, after that incident right there, you didn't have the mayor get word of what Jimmy Olsen did, because with Jimmy being there at the scene of the crime, Jimmy was able to get some pictures, and then you had Jimmy upload those photos to his website, where now you have millions of people being able to actually watch and see what happened in Metropolis. And now those people are wondering, hey, what in the world is going on in Metropolis? Now, with that happening, of course, the mayor got word. The mayor of Metropolis. Now, this is our first time getting a look at this character. As a matter of fact, we don't know her actual name just yet. All we know is her name is the mayor of Metropolis. But with her seeing what happened in her city and wondering how many people saw what happened in her city, she calls up Clark Kent. Now, when she does call up Clark Kent, it's Clark saying, hey, listen, Mayor, what you saw was me trying to be a hero, me trying to protect Metropolis. And she says, I'm trying to do the same thing as well. The difference is, though, you are a target. Because right now, the entire world knows that you are Clark Kent, that you are Superman. And so with those things being out there, you have become a target. You are actually making things worse with you being in Metropolis. And so I'm asking you to go ahead and leave, because if you leave, then I can do a better job protecting the people of Metropolis. Now, after his phone call with the mayor, you then have Clark go around and make sure that everybody is okay. Because when it came to that police officer that was a shadow creature, he did hurt a lot of people, especially Lee, the fire chief who was there at the scene. Now, luckily for her, she was just stabbed, but her stab wound is going to be very important for later chapters down the road. But luckily for Clark, no one died. Yes, you did have few people get hurt, but again, no one died. Now, you do have Jimmy say, hey, let's go ahead and take you back home to your old apartment. As a matter of fact, Clark agrees, except when they walk in, someone has been through his entire apartment, trashed the place, and then at the very bottom, they have spray painted "Go Home Alien" to show that there are some people in Metropolis who do not like Superman at all. And matter of fact, when they found he was Clark Kent and he was an alien, they're all like, you do not belong here at all. Go back to where you came from. And so this hurts Clark a lot, especially the idea that a lot of his stuff got ruined. Even a photo of his parents. Now, when it came to the new 52 for Clark Kent in his new timeline, his parents, Jonathan and Martha Kent, they died. And so it hurts him even more to find a photo of them halfway destroyed. But luckily, he still has it and he's still able to see his parents. But after that, you then have Clark meet up with everybody from his old neighborhood, where he does explain that his end goal is to actually stay here in Metropolis to be the hero they need. Except he says, I cannot be there every single second. I'm not as fast as I used to be. I'm not as strong as I used to be or durable, but I'm still going to try my best. But I'm also asking you guys to also protect yourselves. And you have everybody in this old neighborhood say, yes, we can do that. We can protect ourselves, but at the same time, help you out to protect our city, to protect our neighborhood. And so it seems like a very great moment. We then jump over to the mayor's office. And when we do, this gives us our confirmation that the mayor is actually the one behind everything going on in this storyline, because you do have an officer go by the mayor's office, and to this officer is going to be just a regular meeting, except when she walks in, we kind of find out the mayor is the one controlling the shadow creatures. And so she's right now trying to capture this police officer. And this officer does the right thing. She freaks out and she begins to shoot the mayor. But of course, nothing is happening to the mayor. But luckily for the officer, Clark was there because Clark was on his way to have a meeting with the mayor. And so as soon as he appears, he sees what's happening. And he now knows the mayor is the one who has been controlling the actual shadow creatures. And as we jump into the final chapter of the story, we kind of find out that the mayor's name, or her bad guy name, is actually Wrath. With that being said, when it comes to Wrath, she does control these shadow creatures, but it also seems like she does feed off people's fear, their anger. And so when it comes to the people, the innocent people, she's feeding off their fear. When it comes to Superman, well, of course, she's feeding off his anger because so many innocent people were hurt that Superman is very angry at her, but she's just feeding off of it, getting stronger and making herself harder to actually defeat. And things only get worse in the city because when we jump over to the old neighborhood that Clark was living in, we pick back up with Lee Lambert, who's just trying to help clean up the area after what happened with the police officers. Except that is the moment you have a bunch of innocent people begin to change. And we kind of find out they also been possessed by Wraith in some kind of shadow creature symbiote kind of way, where now all these innocent people are turning into more shadow creatures and they're about to attack the innocent people who are unaffected by the mayor. And so you have Lee, Dante, and also Jimmy saying we have to work together to stop this crowd before things get out of hand. And so now you have a whole-on battle in the old neighborhood of Clark Kent. And the next section really does jump back over to Superman fighting against Wraith. And while you have Superman fighting against Wraith, you see how strong she is, because no matter what he does, she's getting stronger and stronger, making herself a stronger opponent for Superman. But on top of that, he has to worry about the innocent people who are right now being affected by her shadow creatures. Now, you do have these innocent people tell him, hey, do not worry about us at all. Deal with her, because right now, if you don't stop her, literally Metropolis is going to be in trouble. So focus on her. And so of course he does focus on her and the fight continues on. But getting back over to Lee Lambert, we see that Lee is also being changed into a shadow creature. Now, we saw her get stabbed earlier, and this is where her stab wound comes very important, because with her being stabbed earlier, that's where the infection begins. And so it does seem like she is beginning to be taken over by this shadow creature. With that happening right there, we do see her head towards a building on fire right now. And we're left to believe that she had destroyed the entire building that was caught on fire. And then she comes out from a different building and it seems like she is going to continue her attack. Now, when Clark does arrive, Clark realizes that she's not being controlled. That matter of fact, she actually has control over her own body because she used the powers of the shadow creature or the symbiote creature as a way to help free the people who were trapped in the building that was on fire by giving them a different path through a different building as a way out of the burning building. And so she was basically using her powers for good. And once she's able to get complete control of her body, she calls out for Clark and say, hey, don't worry, I have control over this. Now this is very huge because the other people who were infected, of course, they were not able to control their dark side, their shadow figure or symbiote figure. When it comes to Lee, she was able to do it. But the question is, how? How was she able to do this? But with the mayor disappearing and everybody calming down, the battle is over. And with the battle being over, you didn't have everyone begin the process of just cleaning up the neighborhood. After dealing with the police officers, but also the mayor's attack, this area has been wrecked. And so you have everybody just chipping in, trying to clean up the area. But this is also Superman saying, I have to stay here. This city needs me. This area needs me. Now, yes, I'm not the old Superman like I was a few months ago, but I'm still Superman and I stand for something. I brought hope wherever I went to, and my goal is to bring the hope back to Metropolis. So I am going to stay here in Metropolis and still be the Superman this city needs. But speaking of Wraith, we see her go to a different area in Metropolis. Now, when she does go to this different area in Metropolis, she goes to a random hotel where she does walk into a hotel room. But when she does ask somebody in this room, are you ready? Now, when it comes to this room, it doesn't look like your normal room. It seems some kind of like out of time kind of room, because the person that she's talking to appears out of nowhere and says, I have been waiting for 2,000 years. Please tell me that our path is clear. Speaking of their future. And she says, yes, everything should be ready to go. And we see her begin the process of grabbing souls around her in this one area of Metropolis. As we're left to wonder, who is Wraith and who is she working with? And what is their end goal? But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.